Hi friends, welcome back to the Natural Nourished family. Today I am making sourdough English muffins. For this recipe we have to melt the butter in the milk on the stove, and so we're adding the butter, the milk, and some water on low heat, just enough to melt the butter without boiling it. So here I am measuring out the flour. I like to use an organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour. And I have my scale here, which you can't really see, but I'm weighing out the flour. And next I am weighing out the salt. And for this, I'm just using a regular iodized salt. And then my wonderful starter. So I used some of it already for a different recipe today, and what's left is for this recipe. So I'm just going to measure out what I need here. So this is a recipe that I've been wanting to do for a long time, but I've just been kind of scared to take this one on. It's not just your, sourdough loaf. It's a little bit more complicated, but I said, just do it. So it actually turned out okay. The final product was good. Just the process was, I learned a little bit, so it'll be better next time. But sometimes you just gotta go for it, and the first time might not be perfect, but you can keep trying. Keep practicing, and you will get it eventually. So next I'm measuring out the sugar. I like to use a pure cane sugar, just a 100% pure cane sugar, and I'm mixing it with the starter, and here's my little helper. And so the butter was melted. I just poured it into a different container to help cool it down so it's not steamy hot when I mix it with the ingredients. And stay tuned, this little one makes a little bit of a mess coming up here soon, but just breathe. Patience, I love it. I do love it. I love teaching them, and I love their help. So now we're mixing in the milk mixture to the starter, just very slowly. Again, try to have patience with the little ones. I love that they want to help, so I just, kind of let them help until they, want to move on to something else, and then I take over. So here I'm just mixing it real slowly, because it is still a little bit warm, so I'm just mixing it in really slowly, continuing to whisk it. And now here's the the part where you have to breathe. Oh, yep, she dropped the whole bowl into the milk, and it splattered everywhere. You can't really see in the video, but it went everywhere. It wasn't that bad though. We just cleaned it up. I got some extra hands helping with the paper towels, and then we get right back to it. So now we're going to mix it all together to make our dough. She wanted to help, but it was a little bit hard, so she moved on to something else. They love to play with my spices. So after we have it all mixed up, then we're going to cover it with a towel and let it sit. After the dough rested, I uncovered it and just forming it into kind of a nicer, smoother ball. See how it kind of comes together? It's not so scraggly anymore. We're just kind of forming it into a nice ball, putting it back in the bowl and covering it up, setting my timer for quite a while. So it had to sit for quite a while. And then after that, we transferred it to the fridge so it could sit overnight. So now this is the next day, and I'm just putting some flour down so it doesn't stick. And I'm doing this one-handed because I'm holding my daughter in my other hand. That's just how it goes. So we're dumping it out, and we're going to flatten it out kind of into like, a circle, rectangle, whatever. There's measurements in the recipe, so I'll share that. And then we're just using a cup to form out the circles for the English muffins. These are mini English muffins, so that's why I used a cup. So we just let it rest again. We covered it with a wet towel, and after it rested, now we are going to cook them. So these are actually cooked on the stove, so on a pan. And so this is the part that I learned a lot from. I cut quite a bit out of this video because this actually took forever. So as you can see, I have the heat on very, very, very low, too low. They just took so long, and you could probably see my time on the stove, how much time passed by. These are supposed to just take like 6-ish minutes on each side, but finally I got it to a good temperature and they started to brown and rise, and then you flip them over. And this was kind of the second batch that I added, and that was it. They were great. They are just these little mini English muffins. You can cut them open, and they weren't quite as like airy as I was expecting, so I'm not sure, but they did taste really good. They did have a little bit of a sour flavor to them, but they were so good.